Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. Today, I'm coming back with another exotic retrospective video. If you've not caught one of these before, we have made two previously, focusing on the Pestilence and the Eagle Bearer. I decided to go ahead and make an official playlist for this mini series, so feel free to check that out. I'll link it down below. But today, we've got an episode focusing on not just an exotic that has had a storied past, but one that I think has become forgotten by many. And I don't just mean in the current day, but people have forgotten what this item used to be capable of. It's one of the few exotics in the game, perhaps the only one, that got a complete top-down redesign. Its talent nowadays shares zero similarities with its original one, and that is the Sawyer's Kneepads. Not an item many would expect to see on here, I wager. I don't think I saw any requests or suggestions for this one on the prior videos, but believe it or not, this was actually the exotic that inspired me to start doing this series at all. There's some fascinating history here. So let's just get straight to it. If you enjoy this one, you want to see more videos like this on all things Division 2 moving forward, then be sure to subscribe. Have to give a huge shout out and thank you to our channel members as always. Thank you so much for your support of myself and the channel, allowing me to branch out and make fun videos like these. It's beyond appreciated. But with that down, you know the drill. Let's wind that clock back to 2019. When the Division 2 first released, there was a roster of available exotic items, or ones that rolled out in the weeks following launch. Weapons like the Chatterbox, the Liberty, the Nemesis. But one important detail is that the Division 2 had no exotic armor pieces at release. It was not until Title Update 4 when we finally got the Dodge City Gunslinger's holster, which was awarded from a project chain. TU5 then delivered the second ever exotic armor piece with the BTSU data gloves, which originally were awarded as a drop chance from Galveston at Camp White Oak. But then, with TU6, the Division 2's third exotic armor piece released, and that was the Sawyer's Kneepads. Now, funny enough, TU6 was the same update that introduced targeted loot, and the Sawyers were the first ever exotic released out into the general loot pool. Now, if my searching is correct, it does seem as though there was a dedicated drop source from Hyena bosses, like in Grand Washington Hotel or Jefferson Trade Center, but it would also just drop from targeted Kneepads content. I remember getting my first ever pair of these from a control point boss via targeted loot. My friend was gracious enough to give me his drop at the time, so shout out. So, the Sawyer's Kneepads of 2019, with their talent being based around remaining stationary, building up damage over time, getting immunity from stagger. Oh, no, wait, that is today's Sawyer's. As I said in the intro, the original iteration of this exotic bears no resemblance to the Sawyer's Kneepads of the modern day. Here was its original talent, which came in three parts, as all Gear 1.0 weapons and exotics did. Firstly, you had Short Circuit, which granted you plus 80% jammer pulse charge speed. Then, First Wave Tech. Disruption effects now destroy hostile skill proxies. After staying in cover for 4 seconds, you gain the Lead by Example buff. And finally, Lead by Example. Gain plus 50% bonus armor while performing a cover-to-cover. If the distance traveled is at least 8 meters, disrupt all enemies within 10 meters and gain 10% bonus armor for each blue roll for 4 seconds. The disrupt occurs 1 second after completing the cover-to-cover. So, interesting, huh? As I said, this is the only exotic in the game I can think of that had its identity completely retooled after release. Even with an item like the Pestilence, like we covered, that got its functionality changed quite a bit compared to Gear 1.0. At the end of the day, it still deals with toxin debuffs, damage over time mechanics. The Sawyer's Kneepads went from an EMP dishing offensive tank piece to a stationary damage building piece. Just a complete 180. And I have to say, the original talent was pretty cool. As an example, when within cover, you would see a preview radius appear after 4 seconds, and earning the Lead by Example buff would show you exactly where the EMP would detonate. Some of these old clips you'll see in here were actually mine. I made a build video with this while using the Diamondback that I ran in both PvE and PvP. It was quite fun. I really just enjoyed that feeling of performing a cover-to-cover and sending out an EMP wave. It felt satisfying, it felt rewarding. Keep in mind too that EMP sources were more limited back then. Combat was also just a bit more methodical, so having the utility to do mass EMPs that fully destroyed enemy skill proxies was a much bigger deal. That said, this item was in no way ever meta. It very much remained a niche pick, and perhaps that motivated the devs' decision to do what they did next. We move on to Title Update 8 in March of 2020, which saw the release of Warlords of New York and Gear 2.0, and as with the vast majority, if not all, of the exotics in the game, including the Pestilence and the Eagle Bear, as we covered in our prior videos, the Sawyers got a big retooling with this update, but perhaps surprisingly, its talent here still does not reflect the one that we see today. It was called Grace Under Fire. Cannot be staggered by explosions, staying in cover for 6 to 12 seconds, provides damage immunity while aiming for 1 to 2 seconds. Now, little fun fact with this one, the talent icon used, which is still the same one that you see today, was for the previous Jammer enhancing perk, which visually, its identity does not really match the modern day functionality of the item. When you were in combat, though, the older, and I think more fitting, cover reflecting icon would still show, but yeah, the second iteration of the Sawyer's Kneepads were interesting. I mean, complete damage immunity is of course a huge bonus, as it would be today, but at a 1 to 2 second window, and that's dependent on if you waited for 6 or 12 seconds in cover, it just made it really hard to maximize, hard to justify sacrificing an exotic slot just to run it, and it turns out that the developers agreed, because just 1 month later, on April 21st, 2020, Title Update 9 released, and this might be the quickest turnaround for a rework we've ever seen in this franchise, because with this update, the Sawyer's Kneepads got retooled yet again. Its talent after this rework now reflects the one that we know today. It's called Stand Your Ground, cannot be staggered by explosions, increases total weapon damage by 3% each second you are not moving, stacks up to 10 until you start moving, all stacks are lost after 10 seconds moving. Clearly, this talent resonated with people a little bit more. It's now been here for over 6 years. Pretty much the only thing that harkens back to its original offensive tank identity is the explosion stagger immunity, which is a very useful trait. It's the only component that persisted from the brief TU8 iteration. And yeah, while the Sawyers does see some usage these days, for me, it's just too cumbersome to work around remaining completely stationary. I just move too much for it to be worth it. I know there are some people who absolutely make it work, though, and it does provide you a nice bonus since you don't have to sacrifice a chest piece or backpack talent to run it. So, for the most part, that is it. The Sawyer's Kneepads we know today is the third iteration of the item. However, for most, I would wager it is the only iteration you've known or can remember, especially with the middle entry lasting a grand total of just 5 to 6 weeks. Again, incredibly short-lived, but because of that and the stark differences it has compared to what came before, I find it to be one of the more fascinating exotics that we have in the game. And so, with that, we conclude the history of the exotic Sawyer's Kneepads. Well, there you have it, everybody. I very much hope you enjoyed this retrospective. As always, I would love to get your thoughts, whatever they may be, whether it is on this video's topic. What is your take on the Sawyer's Kneepads? Were you around for those previous iterations of the item? If not, what are your first reactions of what it used to be capable of? And what do you think about the item today? And then, on the other side, any ongoing feedback you may have about this retrospective series, I would love to hear it. But yeah, that's going to be just about everything I've got for you today. Thank you all so much for coming by and watching. I'll catch you back soon. But until then, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And